Hey again, YouTube. I stepped into the time vortex that is the local thrift store once again and came up with this. The hottest new product of 1990-something. The Super Kid Professional Joystick. For professional kids, like myself. The Super Kid Professional Joystick is compatible with the Super Famicom, the Sega Mega Drive, and the Neo-Geo. That's really the only claim the box makes. There's no country manufacturer, UPC, or anything else on here. By the look of the box, I really expected some flimsy plastic crap. But wait, is that Atari era faux wood grain I see? No, it isn't. It's stained wood, and it's pretty heavy. And it's pretty nicely stained too, save for a few scratches. Kinda adds character. The joystick itself has a female 15-pin connector, which you could stick a gender changer on to plug this thing into a PC game port. I think the 15-pin connector here is for the Neo-Geo. I'm guessing there should be some sort of adapter included here because there's no 9-pin Mega Drive connection. The arcade stick itself plugs into this adapter, which translates the joystick button presses into console-compatible signals. We'll take a quick peek inside this later. At first glance, this thing appears to use some sort of actual arcade hardware. These are the kind of controls I remember from a lot of the Japanese arcade games from the 90s, which were mostly in the form of trashed corner store bootleg cabinets. Over on the bottom we have a piece of unfinished wood, and you can see the stain coming over the edges for a little artisanal charm. Flat wood screws hold 4 rubber feet to keep it from scratching or sliding off the table, and a few more wood screws hold the bottom on. Well, let's open it up and take a look at the hardware inside, and maybe come up with a plan to make use of it. Well, that would be why it feels so much like the real thing. It is. Inside there are 8 Zippy brand buttons, along with a Zippy brand arcade stick. This one doesn't appear to have a restrictor plate attached. These are knockoffs of the Japanese Famitsu controls, but I'm no expert on how they compare. To me, they feel like a great arcade stick and buttons. I'm impressed by the build quality. No big globs of flux, cold joints, or long pickled runs of wire. Each of the buttons appears to be wired to a common ground, and the joystick to a separate ground wire, giving us 14 in all. Very straightforward. Let's take a look at that signal converter. Looks like it copies the SNES, Mega Drive, and presumably the Neo-Geo gamepad circuits with a switchable output. Maybe this will make an appearance later if I can find a use for it. My original plan was going to be to use an Arduino programmable microcontroller to act as a USB gamepad to interpret the button presses. A few minutes into it, I realized I only had an Arduino Uno on hand. The Uno can't operate as a USB HID device, so in our case it can't pretend to be a gamepad, but the Leonardo can. The Uno can be hacked to do it, but it's a little bit of a clumsy process. Plus the same libraries aren't available on the Uno, so there would be a little difficulty compiling code out of the box. In looking up the current prices of the Arduino Leonardo, I stumbled across a much cleaner, simpler, and in more ways than one faster solution. KeyMat Zero Delay USB Encoder, and there are numerous clones. I have no idea who came out with the original, but they all seem to operate in similar ways and make similar claims. It came with the encoder, 17 wires wired for 4.8mm terminals, and a USB cable. The Amazon listing claims you just need to simply connect the arcade controls to the encoder board with the included wires, then plug in the encoder into your computer USB port, and then just enjoy your arcade games with your PC. So we'll see how true that is soon. As the name implies, the board should also have close to zero latency. The wires need to slide onto the joystick and button switch terminal, so I'll need to undo all that neatly done wiring. It's a bulk job, so I'll break out the old solder sucker for this one. Whoever built this used a reasonable amount of solder, so cleaning it up is a quick job. Before I get going attaching the wires, I just want to make sure there are no enormous globs of solder that will keep the wires from sliding on. I'm going to loosen the terminal connections a little to help them slide on a bit easier. Once that's done, just slide the wires onto the terminals. Wire the ground to the terminal marked COM, and the other wire to the terminal marked NO if the switches are marked. If the switch has a terminal marked NC, ignore that. That terminal is used for wiring an always-on connection that breaks when the button is pressed, the opposite of what we want. After that, plug the buttons into the appropriately marked terminals on the encoder board. With it all plugged in, you can see what a clean solution this is. The wire runs were long enough to accommodate this controller, but it might be a bit of a problem for a full-size or 2-player panel. The included USB port is also a bit of a problem for me. I don't want to drill a larger hole in the back of the controller to accommodate the plug, so I'll need to cut it off, feed it through, and then solder it back on. I trimmed off the end of the USB cord, fed it through, and then used a small zip tie for cord retention. Then I pigtailed the wires back together, soldered them, and wrapped the joint in a little electrical tape. I've also covered the bottom of the encoder board with a few pieces of electrical tape to reduce the risk of any electrical shorts. Time to screw the bottom back on and plug it into my PC. With Windows XP or above, the joystick is auto-detected flawlessly. All 8 buttons and the joystick work great. I had a little trouble on Windows 98 though. The joystick would only appear for a split second as it was being disconnected. I might just have a wonky USB port. So, what does one do with a newly retrofit USB arcade controller? Get absolutely destroyed by the AI and NBA Jam with the MAME arcade emulator, that's what. Even with unlimited quarters, it stings. These USB encoder boards are a great solution for anyone looking to make a custom arcade controller, and are ridiculously easy to wire up. It's nice when something comes with all the required parts to use, and simply just works when it's assembled. So let me know in the comments down below what I should be playing with this controller, and I'll be back with some sort of retro gaming or computing video again soon. The next one might be opening and installing a shrink-wrapped Caldera Open Linux 2.3 distribution from 1999, but I want to make sure it's on some period-correct hardware first, just to make things interesting. That's all for now. Thanks for watching.